Am I ready to die? I've been asking myself since June this year. The question gives me a false sense of power, as if I get to choose the day and the manner in which I cease to exist. Being terminally ill means you are forced to ask yourself these questions. Mars asks if I'm worried about the afterlife. I've stopped worrying about what would happen on the other side. My concern is now more on how I would leave this life. Would I die in excruciating pain? Would the morphine stop working? I don't fear death. I fear pain. In March last year, locked up in a tiny apartment, I found a lump in my right breast. I knew it was cancer, but my son and I were stuck under a militant lockdown, so we waited and felt the tumor grow larger and harder. The day after the lockdown was lifted, Po and I went to the closest hospital. I wanted a woman oncologist. A woman felt safer, so that's who I picked. She examined me behind a curtain and told me it was cancer. The right breast, where the tumor had formed, had begun to metastasize. My lymph nodes were already victim to the spreading demon inside me. Po walked inside the curtains. Tears filled my eyes, seeing the tears in hers. I have a little boy, I told the oncologist. I can't leave him just yet. She told me that she would cure me in 5 months. My lady doctor prescribed several ultrasound scans and a long-term dose of tamoxifen, a drug I had never heard of. She asked me to get the scans immediately and to get back to her to confirm the diagnosis. When we returned with the scans, she was gone. Of course, we had needed time for crying, comforting, holding hands, trying to make sense of how bad things looked. We went home, and Po needed to return home to hers, and probably to get some space from me so she could call Shaz and Nadine and let them know. Nadine was just waking up on the other side of the world. I speak to some friends, women who I love deeply, but maybe no longer recognize nor relate to. These well-meaning friends ask other doctor friends about cancer specialists. The name Panduka pops up. He's the best. I ask him about the tamoxifen. That's optional, he scoffs. The best was telling me that tamoxifen was optional, so it must be true. I return with a mammogram. Dr. P complains that the woman who conducted my mammogram had been sloppy. What next, I ask? What is the stage of diagnosis? He answers my second question first. End of stage 3. Stage 4 comes next. Dr. P then passes me on to his oncologist, Dr. Dehan. Occasionally logic escapes me, like when I allowed myself to be carted off to a doctor without knowing his specialization. Dr. P, I now realized, was a surgeon. My friends check around. Dr. Dehan, the oncologist, is also the best, we are told. Dr. D asks about my social circumstances. I'm a single mother running a home, raising a child on a low income. He asks me to register at Apeksha Hospital, Maharagama, the free state-run healthcare facility dedicated to the treatment of cancer. My father died there. I haven't been able to walk back since. He was treated for lung cancer and he was treated inhumanely. Beggars can't be choosers is my family motto when it suits the delivering of unsolicited cliches. This is why I avoid gatherings, large crowds, parties. Give me a bottle of wine, a joint, and the company of 2 or 3 in the comfort of my home, and I'll show you how beautiful a private life can be. I visited Maharagama from May 2020 to February 2021. They may not know that I am no longer a patient there, because from February to date, they never called me up to inquire why I have been missing my appointments. You put your cancer and your life in their hands. Your job is to find the strength to go on. Their job is to make you feel they care enough. I ask about the chemo. What kind, how often, how many, side effects. Dr. D says doxorubicin once in 3 weeks, 8 doses, and nausea, gastritis, hair fall. This seemed acceptable. I had always wanted to go bald and journey along the Hellhound Trail, visiting every delta of the Mississippi Blues. So then, am I ready to die? Are all journeys important? Yes, to me the Hellhound was. Chemotherapy happened once in 3 weeks. It went like this. Wake up 5 a.m., leave home 6 a.m., reach hospital 7 a.m. to avoid the chaos of 7:30 a.m. Queues form and reform endlessly as medical files are shuffled around. I head to the medical oncology wing located on the 2nd floor of the administrative building, formerly called the New Building, until a shiny new Razavi building stole its identity shortly after my father passed away. On days I took Daddy for chemo treatments, I signed him in, settled him down, and then walked around the construction site. Little did I know that I would be butchered and tormented here just 4 years later. No, I don't speak in hyperbole. When I say butchered, I mean butchered. And torment is too kind a word for the kind of torture I had to endure. The process of first getting in, then trying to see a doctor who will pass you on for chemo, it hasn't changed much since the days I was the escort and not the patient. A miracle of favor gets you seen at 10:30, otherwise you wait till 2 or 3 in the afternoon. There are many who have come from distant places, and of course, everyone here is very sick. You aren't always allowed to see Dr. D. You have to draw his attention. Plain old metastatic breast cancer just wasn't exciting enough for him. For each visit, you needed new blood tests. Tests have to be done the night before or the morning of your treatment. You get your tests free at the hospital or faster at a private laboratory. I was blessed. I always had company. Sometimes not 1 but 2 people with me. But so many travel alone to the hospital, weak and gauntly from treatments. I wondered how they did it, how they had the strength to go back home. They look at your test from a safe distance and prescribe your dose from afar. Same pills for nausea and gastritis, as if chemo is generic and affects everyone the same way. Dr. D told me I was getting just doxorubicin, but my plan included a cocktail of the Red Devil, and cyclophosphamide. Why wasn't I given all the information? I have deep concerns about how healthcare providers operate. You achieve MD or consultant status. You are allowed to have your own patients, see them privately for the money, see them in state facilities for the fame. Rare cases are higher in government institutions. I think they get hungry for annual publications. Many doctors consult in 2 or 3 private institutions. In each place, they see 20 to 30 patients a day, sometimes 8 days a week. Patients pay an average of 3,000 per channeling. The money is divided between the hospital and doctor. These sessions often last a maximum of 5 to 7 minutes, sometimes less than 3. To fill their pockets with patients, doctors often rush through the process. So many patients, so few hours. But how does a human being assess a complex illness like cancer in under 3 minutes? Things slip through the cracks. Look at me. I am proof. I went to the National Cancer Institute in May 2020 with breast cancer. 9 mets in my skull, a massive fluid buildup in the brain, a dislocation in the left brain ventricle. And how did I discover all this? In June 2021, 1 year after my diagnosis, and because of blinding headaches and my family doctor ordering an MRI. The best hospital I had been visiting for over a year had just not bothered. Since June, I have been asking myself if I was ready to die. I have also been asking myself if I could have been saved. Had the cancer hospital run the tests they should have. Since June, we have found tumors in my liver and one in my left lung. Meds have also been found in the T4 region of my spine, my entire pelvis, one lung, a femur, a leg, a rib. If my doctor wasn't seeing a few hundred other patients a day, maybe he would have noticed that my metastasizing cancer needed to be checked far more often and ordered more tests for me. But no, he only treated me for breast cancer. They all did. Now that I'm staring death in the face, am I allowed to ask the Ministry of Health to impose the maximum quota for patients and doctors? Because how many cases can a consultant earn from? Each month? Each day? There were times in the cancer hospital when I waited in line to see a doctor just so I could ask about the need for a scan. Twice I asked. Twice I was snapped at. I have 6 of my 8 cycles of chemo, then my mastectomy surgery, then the final 2 chemo cycles. I did the first 6 cycles, I recovered from my surgery, went to see Dr. D. He said I needed chest radiation, 15 rounds before the remaining chemo. Took me 3 weeks going up and down to the hospital to get my name in the radiation book. I turn up on day 1. A resident opted to change the plan and Dr. D agrees with her. I would have a new chemo instead, paclitaxel. Paclitaxel is deadly. Each dose shaves away some years of your life. The strength I was finally regaining poured out of me. Everything exhausted me. And I haven't even told you about the pain. When it was time for my next dose, 3 weeks later, I couldn't go. I just couldn't go. We channeled Dr. Dehan privately. Shane goes to see him, explains my exhaustion, my immobility. Dr. Dehan says, paclitaxel is known to cause heart conditions. Again, information I had not known. Take her off to a cardiologist, he advises. Don't return until the heart is better. 2 days later, and I am with Dr. Neomali. A heart echo indicates that my resting heartbeat was equivalent to me running at full speed. This is not good. She tells me it was definitely the paclitaxel. She prescribes a long-term dose of Corolan 5. She suggests I take a break from chemo for a while. The new plan had now cost me 6 weeks of a break in my treatment, and I had an old man's heart. Then the headaches start. At first, I ignore them, but they get worse by the day and eventually by the hour. I know now that metastatic breast cancers travel to the brain sometimes and should have been carefully watched and monitored by MRI scans, which would have indicated the edema in my brain. It would have indicated the skull tumors in close proximity to the blood-brain barrier. I promised myself never to return to Maharagama. It's time for a new oncologist, my GP says, after ordering the MRI that Apeksha didn't bother to. Dr. Sachini Rasnaika's name pops up. Hang on. I know her. She first diagnosed me 11 months ago, before I was taken away to the best doctors, to the best hospital. I remember she said she would heal me in 5 months. She asks me if I have been taking the tamoxifen. I tell her the best doctor said it was optional. She looks up from her notes, looks at me in disbelief. She notices that I'm ER-PR positive, which means 2/3 of my tumors are full by estrogen and progesterone. Tamoxifen should have been a daily dose since the day she prescribed it to help mitigate this. After seeing the brain MRI, she also orders 10 rounds of brain radiation. My head goes straight to Chernobyl. In a private hospital, you can ask for answers. In the state-owned dinosaur, you can't. So patients learn to be quiet, learn to take whatever comes, learn to let go of decisions, because they can't afford to pay for respect. Without anyone to witness what happens, without a record of negligence, without accountability, they could kill you and you wouldn't even know. Jerome tells me life has been particularly unfair to me. I think about what he said. Life. It put me in an abusive home, put me in an unhappy marriage to get away from the abusive home. Finally, I find my one, the one I was meant to be with. And then I get this damned disease. It clings to me like a stalker, grabbing onto my every faculty and not letting me go. But I also think about the good stuff, and I often feel I am more than the bad things that have happened to me. October 2020. Other women are queuing up for mastectomies at the Mahargama hospital. They find it strange that I had chosen to remove both breasts. To preserve one's sense of gender by leaving one breast intact makes absolutely no sense to me. But you will look like a boy, they say. Surgery day. I wake up, I want to retch. I had been told that Dr. P had steady hands and that his work was beautifully neat. My research indicates that there are several ways to do a mastectomy. I was scheduled for the full Monty without being told so. I would lose breast, my pec minor muscle, and more without my consent. I had wanted to ask about skin and nipple saving measures. Days later, I find out that not only was Panduka not in the theatre when I was being operated on, he was not even in the hospital. Oh, and by the way, they left behind some cancer deposits for good measure. This we discovered 1 year later, and I had to go into emergency chest radiation. Doro, who sees my scars with the titanium pins now dislodged, says to me, "This is not surgery. You have been butchered." I need a break. Can we ask my son to take over? Here are some drawings by Lucas, a little boy who lived in a tiny flat dealing with corona and cancer long before anyone else knew. I had 2 surgical drains drilled and fixed to either side of my chest, draining excess fluid from my chest cavity. The left drain, when ready to come out, was ripped out of me with the stitches still intact on purpose. I screamed. The nurse smiled. Evil. The women in white are dark. The very next week, the director posted notices around the hospital naming me and shaming me for saying what I had said. He called on the gods to curse me and punish me. A few weeks later, he dropped dead. There will be no open coffin at my grave. Like my Muslim brothers and sisters, I want to be wrapped and buried in under 24 hours. I've been planning my funeral, you see. People think I'm morbid. I think I'm pragmatic. And it goes a little something like this. Nearly headless Nettie. That's what they'll call me. Another scout humor has grown. It takes up the entire back of my head, from ear to ear. Shane carries me up the stairs, showers me, stands me up, sits me on the loo. I see patterns dancing in the invisible, detached hallucinations. Days escape me, time slides away. The pressure from the increasing fluid inside my head and this skull eater will gradually cause the blood-brain barrier to implode. Tick, 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 boom. Sure, I throw tantrums, small ones, big ones, and the occasional meltdown. And it's not always just at home. Dr. Satani suggested I channel radiologist. He kept asking me, is it really worth it? He asked me this question 3 times. I yell, I cry, I call Dr. Satani and yell again. I tell her I am done with her treatments, that I am ready to die, and that all she should tell me is how long I had left with what was left of my life. And she said, even when you don't trust yourself, trust that I will heal you. On Friday, 8th October 2021, I finally told her I do. What does it come down to? Ultimately, public or private, every single healthcare institution I have engaged with in the last 2 years has let me down, caused me undue pain, made mistakes, kept vital information from me, been negligent, made my cancer grow undetected. Am I that unlucky? Or is the reality that I am not the only one going through this? As a cancer patient, I am stuck between dying by my illness or dying by healthcare negligence. It's less about a case of being ready to die here. It's whose hands you may or may not die by. How many people die at the hands of healthcare nightmares like the ones I have had to endure? Why aren't we being counted? And why are there no investigations? It's a cover-up and we don't even know. This means the responsibility falls on the patient, the one with the least knowledge and the most to lose, to seek out the right information, ask the right questions. But even in an age of information, our archaic shame-based culture reigns supreme and prevents this from actually happening. We don't want to read up on wombs and boobs and vaginas. We just want to get better. Advocating for yourself inside such a system is virtually unheard of. But advocate I must, or I would have already been dead by now. Of course, I'm ready to die, damn it. Any day, any time, just with a little less pain than I am enduring right now. The choice isn't yours, and even suicides have been known to fail. I am no defeatist. I am mutant, bloody but unbowed. I am ready to die, but I never said I'll surrender. What do we say to the god of death? Not today.